Good morning. Good morning. Forgot to pour myself a little bit of coffee here while I was doing this. Good morning. Today, our topic is around all of the different parts of ourselves and when those parts of ourselves are in inner conflict. Now, it's interesting because, and I don't remember what day it is, it might even be today. I'm going to look here. No, yesterday was multiple personality day. And that got me thinking about these different parts of us because multiple personalities can be seen as a dissociative identity disorder. That's another name for multiple personalities. And all of us, every single one of us has different parts of us. This internal part of us, these different internal parts of us. That's not what this is about. We're not going to go into those in great detail. I'm going to list some things about, I'm going to list like the different parts that each one of us has. And what I want to talk about is how we can let all of those different parts of us get into conflict, get into paralysis by analysis, get into emotional drain, get into the physical toll of that inner conflict. I'm going to talk about those three issues, and then we're going to talk about three strategies. So first, let me just quickly cover, all of us have an inner child. You've probably heard about inner child work, and we all have that inner part of us that loves to play, that's curious, that is, wants to throw a temper tantrum. We have the inner teenager that is I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and too bad, we don't care what other people think. We have the inner young adult that is blossoming and growing and learning and achieving. We have the inner indulgent parent that's going to sit on the couch and eat ice cream, that's going to stay up till midnight binging Netflix, that's going to, when you have an indulgent parent letting you do whatever, whether it's healthy for you or not. We also have an internal negative ego. That negative ego is trying to keep us safe. It is a part of our brain, the fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn part of our brain that's wanting to keep us safe. That is negative, it's the critical parent, the critical part of us, the judge, all of these things where we have that inner critic, that's part of that negative ego. We have all of that going on, and to be honest, it's really trying to keep us safe. It's trying to keep us alive and comfortable, and it doesn't like to change. It doesn't like to do anything different. And the other part of us, we have two other parts of us that are really important that we need to learn how to access more, and that's the nurturing parent. So if you were to see a child, two things, if you were to see a child sitting on a curb crying, I'm pretty sure that most people would not yell at that child or scold them or just tell them to get over it. We'd sit down and we'd ask, what's going on? Hey, I see you. What's happening? Let me just hold you for a bit and let you cry. Let's connect with the child. Okay, so that's the nurturing parent. The other side of the nurturing parent is, if you have a child that comes home and has this wonderful thing they've created, oh, that's beautiful, that's so cool. Or if they achieved something great, they got the test score they were looking for, that's awesome. That encouraging parent, kind of that nurturing side of things. And then the last one is the empowered adult, which is where we'd love to try to spend our entire life. And unfortunately, it's just, we go in and out of all of these all the time. And so the thing I want to talk about today, though, now that we're 4 minutes into this, is that I want to talk about when those are in conflict, because I hear this all the time. And I even say these things all the time. Part of me thinks I should go to this retreat this weekend. Part of me thinks I should hang out with my husband. Part of me thinks I should clean the house. part, all of these different parts of us. And when we allow those parts of us to spin and to go into conversation over and over and just, I don't know, part of me feels this. And it might be, for some people, depending on your personality, you might be saying, well, part of me thinks, because you spend more time here. Other people might say, well, part of me feels, because, and that's not because one of us is more sensitive or not. It's our personality. It's what is our preference. What's the easiest access for us? We all have access to our emotions. We all have access to our thoughts, sometimes not as easily as others. And when we have that conflict going on, 3 big things happen. The first is paralysis analysis. I was just talking with a new contact, somebody I met at a luncheon, and she was talking about how she is an overthinker. And she said it in a way that made me think, like, that's just who she is. She's always been that way. It's always that's something that can't change, which is totally wrong. But when we have those different parts of us in inner conflict, one wants to do something, one wants to do another, one wants to do another, we can let that spin, and that mental paralysis, that rethinking and overthinking and thinking about it again and thinking about it some more and delaying the decision and in having the inability to make the decision, that is going to lead to stress. And it can prevent us from taking any action and prevent us from getting what we truly want. And it'll create stagnation, dissatisfaction, and that stress, as I talked about, I think pretty in depth last week, that stress leads to immune suppression. The second thing that can happen is emotional drain. When we have that inner conflict and it is just consuming us, we spend a significant amount of emotional energy and we can feel depleted. When we have all of this going on in our head, it is going to emotionally drain us. We've got emotions, we've got energy, we've got our physical body, we've got all these different parts of us. And when one of them is just spinning out of control and going over things and rethinking it and going over the decision again and again and again, even after you make a decision, if you're ruminating about that decision, again, that leads to stress. It can interfere, when you're feeling depleted emotionally, it can interfere with your relationships, both at work and at home. And you don't always engage. When you're so reluctant to make a decision, you're not fully engaged in your life. You're not fully engaged in all the opportunities, and you might miss an opportunity. An opportunity might come knocking on your door, and you might not even recognize it because you're so worried. And so you've got all of this internal conflict, this internal dialogue, these machinations back and forth. And those two together then can also lead to a physical toll. So the emotional drain, I mentioned last week how all of these are connected. Our brain, our mental, our emotional, and our physical body are all connected. Our brain, our nervous system, our immune system are all connected. And when we engage in this over time and over again, it depletes our immune system and we get sick. And the biggest thing that I want to help people with is to help them reduce that stress, to reduce chronic illness, to reduce cancer, to reduce the incidences of autoimmune disorders. These aren't things that have to happen. We are creating a lot of this in our lives by the stress, the level of stress that we are allowing into our lives and that we are allowing to continue in our life. And that's the physical toll, because it doesn't just, when we're going over all of these machinations and this rumination in our head, it doesn't just affect us mentally. That mental machination and rumination affects us physically. Some people might not be able to sleep. It might keep them up at night. They might be able to fall asleep, but then they wake up and they're going over it all again in their head. They might have muscle tension. They might experience headaches. And again, your immune system gets weakened. Okay. And that just then when your immune system's weakened and you're sick, then that's just contributing even more stress. So let's talk about 3 things that you can do. The 3 things that happen when we're in that rumination: paralysis analysis, emotional drain, and a physical toll. Now, the 3 things I want to share with you about how you resolve that inner conflict, first and foremost, I think absolutely most important is to listen, to observe, to create space between what's going on up here, those machinations in our head, and how we act. And the thing in the between there is how we feel. Because what we think causes how we feel, and how we feel causes how we act. Now, I want to give you a few steps. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 steps to be that compassionate listener, that nurturing parent to whatever conversation, whatever dialogue is going on in your head, is to acknowledge it first. Oh, I see you don't want to go. And it might even be and we'll talk about this in the second thing with reframing, but whatever's going on might be an indication of something that you really need to pay attention to. But acknowledge it. Oh, I see you. I hear you. Validate. Yes, I can see why you're afraid to move forward with this new job. Or I can see how you're afraid because you just got laid off. Or I can see how you're sad or angry because of this breakup, this loss of a job, this loss of a relationship. Validate the feelings and appreciate that your being was willing to share that with you, that your inner child or your inner teenager or your negative ego was willing to share that with you. Appreciate it and show compassion. So acknowledge, validate, appreciate, compassion. I get you. I'm here. I'm listening. I love you. I care about what you think. Because if all we do is try to stuff it down, then we're just creating more stress and we're stuffing down those feelings. And when we stuff down the feelings, that affects our immune system as well in a negative way. And then the last thing is encourage. Because then you've gotten to the point where that part of you, whether it's the inner child throwing a tantrum, I want to go to this concert, and the, more empowered adult is thinking, I have to be up at, 4 a.m. for a flight. And if I go to this concert, I'm not going to get back until, 1 a.m. And then I'm going to be, when I get to my location and I have to be at a meeting, I'm just not going to be my best self. And it might be a different conversation, whatever it is, because it might be that, you know what, I know I can sleep on the plane. And I know I'm going to have so much fun at this concert. And if I get a nap on the plane, or if I can meditate on the plane, then I can be refreshed. The conversation is not always going to go the same way, but encourage, hey, I get this. And here's why you don't need to be afraid, or not that you don't need to be afraid, but I get that you're afraid. And here's what we've done in the past. Here's how I know we're going to be, we're going to do the best we can in this situation. And if we fail, we'll learn. And if we succeed, great. And we'll celebrate. So that's first thing, is listen and observe. And you can look at it as a mindfulness practice, but it is listening and observing what's going on and going through that 5 steps: process, acknowledge, validate, appreciate, have compassion, and then encourage. The second tool, so the first one was that listen and observe, somewhat of a mindfulness practice. The second thing is to reframe it. In your head, really reframe. And how can you take a look at that inner dialogue that's going on and that seems like a conflict as a way, instead of it being hard and a barrier and something that you need to get over and get past and stop, is to say, is to get curious. I love Jim Nijedlow, a former manager of mine, taught me 3 leadership principles. One of them was get curious before you get furious. So get curious. What is this conflict trying to tell me? Maybe there is something that is really important that it's trying to bring to my awareness. And sometimes it might be something that they're trying to bring to your awareness that it's like, I get you. And we're going to move forward because I know this is the right thing to do for the goal we're trying to achieve. And then the last thing is really looking at what are your values. So when we're addressing that inner conflict, the 3 strategies, listen and observe with those 5 pieces, reframe, and then clarify your values. Because when we know what we truly value, if we have just a few core values, 3 to 5 core values, I think 7's probably too many, but 3 to 5 core values, then we can use those as touchstones to help us in that conversation, in that inner conflict. What is the touchstone that's going to bring me back to my intention, my mission and vision in my life? If I value fun, which I have a friend, Charlene, who that's her big thing. And I try to remember what her acronym stands for. Freedom Unlimited Now? No, I don't remember what the F is. So Charlene, if you see this, comment below. Let us know what fun stands for. Something unlimited now. Anyway, she told me yesterday and it just went right out of my brain. Knowing your values and having them really strong in your brain, in your heart, is really going to help with those internal conflicts, because you can use those as your guide on the path. You can use those as a way to say, okay, do I need to go this way or this way? Which one is really going to help me be true to me? And it's really going to help us get to, this is the last one that really gets us to, what do we really want? And not what does our inner child or our indulgent parent want? What do we, as the empowered adult, really want in our life? Thanks for joining me today. If you have any questions, please DM me or put a comment below and I will get back to you. I do have something I am just launching, and I'll put it in the comments, a freebie that is helping you to reduce stress by working less. Because I know there's so many people out there working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And if you can cut back those hours, you can cut back the stress. And by the way, pulling back hours that are over 40, pulling back those 50, 60, 70, bringing it down, that is actually going to help you be more productive. So check the link in the comments below and you'll have a link to a page where you can sign up for this freebie that gives you 3 strategies to work less. Have a great rest of your Wednesday and have an amazing rest of your week.